Now here we will study about different types of forest. In the previous section we began to understand what we mean by forest, and we came across some four criteria that can define a large tract of land as a forest. Now we are going to study about types of forest. Okay, right. Now where are they found? The first question: where are forests found? uh, we really have to understand this question and ourselves as to where the forest can be found. Okay, now you see, thousands of years ago, or let us say no, lakhs of years ago, we could say, almost the whole world was covered by forest before the birth of man. Whole world was covered by forest, covered most of the land on the earth. Okay, right, except the polar region, where we don't find so much of sun rays, sunshine, and therefore we have too much of ice covered place, and therefore it's very difficult for the vegetation to thrive there, the polar region, the north and south pole. Okay, and another thing is that wherever we have desert, so usually desert will not have any forest because we have lack of water. Therefore if there is no water, some plants cannot grow. Okay, but otherwise most of the land on the earth was covered by forest. So what happened when man began to grow, slowly increase in number, slowly they started clearing of some patches, and then they started their civilization. So what happens slowly, what happens, the humans started settling down in villages and towns, and they began clearing the forest to farm the land. First, man, what he does, he clears the forest in order to grow his own food. That's how it started. Okay, then slowly what happened now, as he grows food, he also wanted to share the food with the others who do not have. And there are places of commercial interest. Now there are markets. Okay, so slowly these markets, they grew into small towns, and these small towns, they kept on enlarging, and then they became cities. That is how we have the civilization. Okay, right now, by the beginning of 20th century, the only forests remaining were in the areas that were not suitable for agriculture, like hill ranges, marshes, rocky terrain. Okay, so after 20th century, what happened, till 20th century, what happened, only the places where people cannot cultivate, people cannot do any agriculture, only those places up to now remain as forest. Okay, otherwise whatever places were cultivable, people and began chopping all the trees and started the cultivation. Another example, now I could say that you all studied about June cultivation. When we talked about the eastern part of India, how people do the cultivation, it's a kind of June cultivation. And then when we talked about the advantages and disadvantages of the June cultivation, we also studied about how people cut the trees. Okay, so it plays a major role in the ecosystem of our world. Okay, so that's how man begins cultivation, cutting of the trees. Okay, and then he tries to convert the land according to his own agricultural needs. Okay, so that's how we find the forest, and those forests are converted into agricultural land. Okay, right, now we will move on to talk about classification of the forests. Here we find forests can be classified in a many number of ways. As we cannot define forest, so also we cannot classify the forest. So there are number of ways to classify forest. Okay, number of ways. So based on, the first one is based on the density. What's the density? Number of trees. If there are so many number of trees, then that particular forest could be called as with a different name. Okay, so based on the density or based on the kind of vegetation that they contain, even based on the kinds of trees, kinds of plants. Okay, so that we call as vegetation. That forest can be named after something else, according to the presence of a particular species of plant or trees. Okay, or their legal or administrative status. Even some of the forests can be classified according to the administrative status. So it is by the government. So the first two classification based on the density and the vegetation, this is by the nature. So it is the nature that decides. Okay, the third way of classification, administrative status. Okay, the third way, it is by our own. So if we find a forest to be more valuable with so much of medicinal plants, the presence of the medicinal plants, then the government takes over. Okay, so the third classification, the administrative classification status, it is dependent on these two aspects. The first one, their density, and then the kind of vegetation. Okay, the first one we will okay, the first classification is based on the density. Okay, so it's very simple. Based on the density, a forest can be divided into three. The first one is very dense forest, second one is a dense forest, open forest, and degraded forest. Okay, dense forest, so based on the density, forest can be divided into four. Okay, the first one is a very dense forest. Okay, which means there are so many trees of different biodiversity, different species. Okay, second is a dense forest, and here of course there are so many trees, but now and then here and there we have got bushes and shrubs. Okay, but still they are dense. Okay, but it is less denser than the very dense forest. The third one is the open forest. Open forest means see, a place where we cannot really live there. Okay, there are so many rocks here and there, small hills here and there. Okay, only the wild animals can live. See, even the surroundings, we cannot live anywhere. Just behind our school we have got a little hill. Okay, so we can't live there because that is a place for all other creatures, all other beings. Like sometimes we have elephants coming there. Sometimes foxes are hiding there. Hyenas are there. Okay, other snakes are there. Kinds of snakes are there. Scorpions we have. Okay, and therefore it is not a place fit to live. Okay, so this we call as open forest, where the trees are not very dense. They grow here and there. Okay, and another one is a degraded forest. Here we don't have much trees, but we have so many bushes and shrubs, thorny bushes. So even there we cannot live. It's very dangerous to live. Okay, so based on the density, we have four kinds of forests. The first one is a dense forest. First one is a dense forest, very dense forest. Sorry, first one is a very dense forest. Second one is dense forest. Third one is open forest. Fourth one is a degraded forest. Okay, right. Now, second kind of classification, that is administrative classification. So, based on the administrative classification, we have three kinds of forest. So, it is a forest department of every country that defines particular large tract of land into different classifications. Okay, the first one in our country, first classification is a reserved forest. Second classification is a protected forest, and third classification is unclassified forest. Okay, now we will study about what they are. Okay, the first one is a reserved forest. Very simple. The name itself suggests that this forest is fully reserved. We cannot have any control over the forest. So the government takes control of it. Therefore, none of us can really make use of any of the forest produce. We cannot cut a single branch of a tree. Okay, so that's a reserve forest. So these are government forests in which no one can cut trees. No one can even graze their cattle. Okay, no one can produce collect the forest produce. Okay, so almost in our country, almost 54.5% of the forest, they are supposed to be the reserved forest. They come under government care. Okay, the second one is a protected forest. Now almost our area comes under probably the protected forest. Okay, so these are managed by the government. So it's the government that manages even the protected forest. Okay, but it may grant local people limited right to graze their cattle. So here you can graze your cattle, you can go to the forest and then you can graze your cattle. Okay, or you can also harvest the grass. Okay, you can also take the dry broken branches, that falls down from the trees. Okay, so we have got a little bit of freedom to make use of the forest produce in the under this classification, the protected forest. Okay, so almost 29.2 percentage of forest in our country, they come under the protected forest. So the difference between the reserved forest and protected forest is that the reserved forest, full and full government takes control. No one can take anything, even a single leaf. Okay, the second one, in the protected forest, of course, no, the local people. So we who are living here are the local people. We have got some kind of benefits. So we can collect the forest produce, or we can graze our cattle also. Okay, so in that way we can make use of the forest. The third one is unclassified forest. These forests are not controlled by the government. Okay, so they are not managed by the forest department. Therefore people they can collect food, they can graze their cattle. Okay, so 16.4 percentage of the forests in our country, they are unclassified forest. Okay, right, now that's the difference between these three administrative classifications. And now we move on to the third kind of classification. What's the third kind of classification? That is a classification based on their vegetation, the kind of trees or the kind of plants we find more in a particular tract of land. Okay, so it's a third type of classification. Okay, the first type of the classification is the density of the forest. The second type of classification is the administrative classification. Third one is the based on the vegetation. Okay, the kind of trees or plants that they grow in a particular large tract of land. Okay, the kind of trees that grow naturally in any region depends on the temperature, rainfall and climatic conditions of that region. Okay, now for example, now here we have so much of rain, always it is raining, then we have particular kind of vegetation, particular kind of the presence of trees or plants. Okay, and the place where we have so much of snowfall, there we have got different kinds of plants, different kinds of trees. Like you see here, for example, coniferous trees like pine or cedar tree. They are mostly found in the cold climate. So that particular type of forest is named after the presence of these cedar trees or pine trees. Okay, right. Again, if your heavy snowfall and moisture is available around the year, so these trees remain green throughout the year. Okay, so wherever we have very cold climate, and then so much of rain, snowfall, then there we have these kind of trees, pine tree, cedar tree, and the forest there named after the presence of these trees. Okay, right. Now if there is moisture throughout the year but the temperature is warm, so the whole year is moisturous but the temperature is not very cold, which means there are too much of rain but the temperature remains warm. Okay, then there are other type of trees we find, trees they grow. Okay, so these are fruit bearing trees, broad leaf trees whose leaves stay green throughout the year. Okay, so here mostly here we have kind of sometimes almost 2/3 of the year we have wet climate. Okay, but the temperature remains same. So according to this climate and temperature, we have different kinds of trees. Okay, so here you see, if there's a most moisture, which means wet throughout the year, but the temperature is warm, then other type of trees. So what are those type of trees? Usually we have the fruit trees that yield fruits, trees with broad leaves. Okay, and they always stay green throughout the year. But in the hot climate, the hot climate where it rains only for a few months in the year, trees such as teak grow. Okay, so where we have a very hot climate, there we don't get much rain, we only have the monsoon rain. Okay, right. So in those conditions, in those climatic conditions, we have only some particular kinds of trees, like teak, teak tree. So that forest is named after this teak. Okay, so these trees shed their leaves in summer and grow new leaves once it rains. So that's how we classify the third classification based on the climate, based on their vegetation. Okay, right. Now we have seen three classifications. The first one is a classification based on density of the forest, the number of trees. Second one is based on the government classification, administrative classification. Third one based on their vegetation. So this vegetation is based on the climate. Okay, so that you should understand. Okay, right. Now we move on to the different kinds of forest. Now you see here, the forest can be classified according to their climate of the region and the species of trees that grow in them. Okay, so on the basis of these forests in India, we have different kinds of forests. So we'll study about the different kinds of forests that we have. There are 5 different kinds of forest in India based on our climatic condition. Okay, now we will see about those forests in the next video. Thank you.